Hello there. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Matthew Robinson, and today I'm going to be talking about teen pregnancy. This is going to be about a 7-minute video. The audience is meant to be someone who is something similar to like a high school health class. So starting off, we have teen pregnancy, just kind of like an overview of it, and then we're moving on to the statistics, some contributing factors, and then also reciprocating factors, the social stigma around it, support and solutions, a conclusion, and then a works cited page. So, just as a super broad overview, teen pregnancy affects about 14 out of 1,000 teenagers, which is currently down from its 17% all-time high of 62 in 1966. However, it's on the rise again. There's a couple reasons why they think that's the case. The first is COVID. The second is that there's been a lot more conversation about women's rights, particularly with their body, and just how the role in government is meant to be in that. So it's kind of hurt some abortions and access to like things like birth control and non-abstinence related contraception items. And then also, teen pregnancy is expensive, both to the teen mother and teen father, and also just to the general taxpayer. It also just exposes a mother disproportionately to things like higher rates of poverty, domestic and sexual abuse, drug addiction, and just an overall shorter life expectancy. And just as a note for the rest of the video, down here is the citations I have gathered this stuff from. It'll be at the bottom, and at the end there'll be like a formal citation page. So moving on with some statistics. The first statistic is about race and ethnicity. So again, minorities are super disproportionately affected by this. Hispanics are the worst, followed by blacks. Within this, if you are below the poverty line, you are even higher at risk than you would be normally. And that kind of segues into the next one. Um, this is from 2013, so a decade ago. So this would clearly be more expensive now. But the whole idea of raising a child costs money, and it would cost up to $250,000. And personally, at 17, I did not have $250,000, and my parents did not have $250,000 that they were going to dish out if I got someone pregnant. So there is a huge understated financial burden that goes along with this. Um, and then just for general statistics, this is a map of the continental U.S. Um, about teen birth rates. So generally speaking, the highest teen birth rates are in the poorest parts of the country with the highest religious influence, like the Deep South and also some of the Midwest. The whole idea behind that is that um, religion in some of these communities is a huge driving factor for marriage super early on, and once they get married in the majority of religions, you have a family. The other part of it is just that the lower you are in terms of income, the higher you are to experience like abuse or a crime like that, um, and just have less access to things like healthcare and doctors' offices and even insurance to be able to like afford those things and actually get medication. So contributing factors. The biggest one is poverty. If you're born below the poverty line, you're 47% more likely to become pregnant as a teenager or get someone pregnant. Education is both sexual and non-sexual. Obviously, sex ed is up to the state, and there is no federal mandate on it. So some states only teach abstinence, and that's all they say about it. And then other states have far more comprehensive sex ed programs. But this also goes back to like non-sexual issues. If you're not going to school to begin with, you're not just missing health class, you're missing everything. So again, people below the poverty line have higher levels of truancy, so they're not getting educated. And also, education can also just go along with biology and general science, as health gets talked about in those. The other one is just access to healthcare. If you're poor, you have a lower standard of healthcare in this country than if you were not. And also, if you don't have insurance, the chance of you going to a doctor's office to get this non-life-saving medication is way lower. Also, if you are the subject of abuse, you're disproportionately higher. Funny enough, if you do end up being a teen parent, um, you disproportionately put your child at risk of these as well. Um, Children who are born to teen moms are 50% less likely to graduate high school. They're 50% more likely to spend their entire life below the poverty line. They routinely have worse jobs, worse access to healthcare, and are end up either victims of abuse or abusers themselves. So the social stigma around this, it used to be way bigger than it was. Uh, Now it's not that stigmatized. There's a couple reasons for this. So the first is you have to think back in the 80s and 90s. We didn't have the internet, and small communities were basically self-contained. So if someone got pregnant as a teenager, it became a thing of gossip and it was stigmatized. But now that you can go on your phone and go on TikTok and argue with anyone about anything anywhere in the world, people are a lot less concerned about what's happening in their immediate vicinity. Another thing about that is that in the late or early 2000s to about the mid 20 teens, there's a bunch of media about teen pregnancy that kind of just made it like, oh, this is a thing. The first one was 91210. And then after that, Law and Order SVU dealt with it quite a bit. The biggest one straight up was Juno, which was a movie based about teen pregnancy. And that kind of set the whole like pregnancy panic, um, I guess, in turn. 16 and Pregnant was from MTV. That showed a lot more of the nitty gritty side, but it also dramatized it and made it more entertaining to watch. And then it also, people made money off of it. So it sort of served as like less of a deterrent and more of an incentive because it appealed to a lot of the personality types that end up getting pregnant. This wasn't just like a film, TV, media, news thing. This also hit The Sims. It hit video game cultures as well. So this became a lot less of a stigmatized issue and far more of like a this is just a thing that happens in our society issue. So there are two types of solutions. The first is proactive. The second is reactive. Um, so proactive would be preventing the pregnancy from occurring. So this would be better contraceptions, better access to abortions, better sex ed, subsidized birth control so anyone can get it, over-the-counter birth control, something like that. Reactive measures to this would kind of be more, well, they're already pregnant, so what do we do now? Federal mandates to increase access to abortion would be the primary option if they decide to go down that route. The other thing is to just train counselors in schools to inform teen mothers on their options. Okay, you got pregnant. What do you do now? The other option is just to kind of notify them about like their rights, especially since a lot of these situations are the results of abuse or just bad families in general. It can cause even greater issues, and it's just important for the child to be treated like an adult in this situation and not as a child. So, in conclusion, teen pregnancy is a narrowing issue, but it's still massive, and it's on the rise. So, teen pregnancy is 100% preventable, at least theoretically. But the way that we treat it in this country right now, in terms of not really addressing sex education and also kind of trying to prevent access to contraceptives and abortions, is kind of fanning the flames of it, and it will certainly increase unless we do something.